Look at this river. Notice its meandering curves, the deep, cool pools of water, the sturdy green banks holding back the earth. If I told you that the shape of this river, the literal geography of the land, was carved by a pack of wolves, you'd probably think I was reading you a fairy tale. Humans have always believed that we are the ultimate engineers of the planet. We build dams, we dig canals, we reshape mountains. But nature has an architect far older and far more precise. Today, we're going to look at one of the greatest and most accidental scientific experiments in human history. We are going to answer a question that sounds completely absurd. How can a mere 14 predators, brought across the border from Canada in the dead of winter, literally change the shape of a river and stop a drought? To understand the miracle of the 1990s, we have to go back to the early 20th century. The atmosphere in North America was driven by one powerful, intoxicating idea: conquest. America and Canada were modernizing rapidly. The wilderness wasn't seen as an ecosystem to be preserved. It was a savage frontier that needed to be tamed and civilized. And in this story of progress, the wolf was cast as the ultimate villain. To the ranchers settling the West, the wolf was an economic terrorist killing livestock. To the government, it was a pest. Even in Yellowstone, the world's very first national park, the mandate was clear: protect the good animals, the gentle elk, the deer, the bison, by exterminating the bad ones. It was an era of total arrogance. By the 1920s, the U.S. government proudly announced a victory. The last known wolf pack in Yellowstone was wiped out. But by trying to play God, humans triggered a slow-motion apocalypse. For the next 70 years, the elk ruled Yellowstone. Without their apex predator, the elk population exploded, and they were constantly hungry. They became lazy. They stood by the rivers, eating the young willow, aspen, and cottonwood trees down to the roots. Without the roots to hold the soil, the riverbanks began to collapse. The rivers grew wider, shallower, and warmer. Fish died. Birds lost their nesting trees and vanished. Humans tried everything to fix it. Park rangers even began hunting the elk themselves to control the population. But a man with a rifle is not a wolf. A man shoots once a season. A wolf hunts every single day, keeping the herds constantly moving. The ecosystem, perfectly balanced for thousands of years, was dying. It turns out you cannot simply edit out the villain of the story without destroying the whole book. By the 1970s, the mindset had shifted. Science was finally catching up to nature. Biologists began whispering a radical idea: we have to bring the wolves back. But getting them back was a political nightmare. It took over 20 years of fierce legal battles, scientific studies, and public town halls. Ranchers were terrified for their cattle. Politicians were outraged. The countdown had begun, but nobody knew if it would actually happen. Tick-tock. The year is 1995. The paperwork is signed. The operation is a go. Biologists travel into the deep snows of Alberta, Canada. They capture 14 gray wolves. They load them into aluminum crates, fly them to the U.S., and drive them into the Lamar Valley of Yellowstone. No one, not even the most optimistic scientists, was prepared for what happened next. Over the next few years, 17 more Canadian wolves and 10 from Montana were introduced. They were released in established pairs, and immediately they went to work. The scientists hoped the wolves would just lower the number of elk, but the wolves did something far more profound. They changed the behavior of the elk. This is the magic of what scientists call a trophic cascade. The elk, realizing the ghosts of the past had returned, panicked. They stopped lazily hanging out in the valleys and river gorges, where they were easy targets. They moved to open areas where they could see the wolves coming. And as soon as the elk left the valleys exploded with life. First came the grass, then the willows, the aspens, the cottonwoods. Bare valleys transformed into lush forests. With the trees came the songbirds. The wolves aggressively hunted the overpopulated coyotes, reducing their numbers by a third. Because there were fewer coyotes, the populations of mice and rabbits skyrocketed. And who eats mice and rabbits? Red foxes, badgers, and hawks. They all came rushing back to the park. Even the grizzly bears returned, lured by the booming bushes of wild berries and the leftovers of wolf kills. But the most incredible guest to return to the party was the beaver. Beavers are nature's aquatic engineers, but they need wood to build. For 70 years, there was no wood. Now, the trees were back. The beavers built dams. These dams created deep, cold pools of water, perfect habitats for otters, muskrats, ducks, fish, and amphibians. And here is where the absolute magic happens. Here is how a wolf moves a river. Because the new forest grew strong roots, the riverbanks stopped collapsing. The erosion stopped. The beaver dams slowed the rushing water, acting like giant sponges. When the dry season came, the land no longer cracked into a drought, because the beaver ponds held the water back, keeping the earth moist. The rivers actually narrowed. They formed new permanent channels. The physical geography of the earth was literally reshaped by the presence of a few dozen predators. It has been roughly 3 decades since the wolves returned. Today, over 80 wolves roam Yellowstone, fiercely protected inside the park's borders, while others have expanded into neighboring lands. The grand irony is that bringing the wolves back even saved the elk. Yes, the herds are smaller now, but they are stronger. The wolves call the sick and the weak, preventing starvation and disease. There is finally enough food for everyone. The Yellowstone story is the ultimate mirror for humanity. It shows us our terrifying capacity to trample the world out of ignorance, but also our profound ability to heal it through humility. We thought we were the conductors of this orchestra, but we're not. We're just players in the band. And sometimes, the best thing we can do is put down our instruments, step back, and let nature take the baton. Nature, it turns out, is the greatest regulator of its own existence. Well, that's all for today. An amazing story, isn't it? Just one single element in an ecosystem is capable of radically changing the whole world. If you enjoyed this journey, please share this video with your friends and family. See you next time.